classroom went from tables to desks.
Not to be picky, but it's over $5,000. Did you board approval?
It was, there were separate,
Okay.
and then with the time frame. Well, the tables were from one place, I thought.
No, it's all from Worthington Direct, but it's on two different, so we had one for $855 for a table, and the rest of them were for $20,000.
Yeah. There you go.
You all right with the rest of that? So, just make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move. Second.
It's been first and seconded. Kristen?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep.
Brett?
Yeah.
Kim?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Discussion items, summer maintenance update.
Okay, well, as you can see, we're not quite finished with our lighting and ceiling project, but, the electrical inspector will be here Thursday morning. And once he okays everything, then we can start putting it all back together, closing it up and, go from there. Our painting projects are well underway.
Did you paint all the halls?
We painted around the edges before when they tore out the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then we repainted that because we knew it would change as their new lasers and stuff straighten out the ceiling. It would go, before it was so crooked, you couldn't tell, but
Yeah.
it really changed a lot. So this room actually got a little shorter. They had to drop it just a little bit, but it wasn't anything severe. Like I said, the front of the elementary, if you notice, there's red paint out there on the poles and the windowsills. We started working on the football bleachers. And we're still waiting on a replacement fan motor for this air conditioner for the media center here. That's why it's not on, but other than that, we're moving along with the waxing and everything else, so.
So is that the air conditioning unit we replaced a couple of years ago?
No, this is the original unit from 1977.
Still have some originals.
Yeah, it's there's two originals and it's one of them. And it's been kind of hard to find the right motor because the framework that mounts the motor in the fan is an odd number. So actually we've got Bill Altwine working on finding or rebuilding the motor that was in it. So, otherwise, their first recommendation was replacing the rooftop unit. So we probably didn't really want to go there. But as far as that goes, we're on track, I think.
It looks like it got pretty well cleaned up. It
Yeah.
looks good for,
They've been cleaning vigorously.
do you think they'll have any issues with the inspector?
I would expect he'll find something in the vast.
They never ran into anything on what they did.
No, they didn't find anything that was, they didn't have any trouble. So,
Right, thanks, Kim. Right, transportation report.
Well, we're just kind of getting everything ready again, and I guess we'll see what kind of rules they weigh with us when we start in. Some of this I've been reading shows that they want to seat one student per row in a bus and skip every other row. So on our 59 passenger buses, we can hold 10 kids on them the way they want to do it.
So we can do the other 5 seats.
So, I guess wait as we get closer and see what happens with it. We'll have to do what we have to do then.
So what if you got like siblings, you put several in a row?
They don't say nothing about that in what I've got at this point. So you would think, yeah, if they're coming out of the same household, that they could sit together. Now, like in Omaha, they are assigning seats, and that kid rides in that same seat the whole time and everything, which that probably makes more sense than one here and one there, and have to be different ones all the time.
spray it down, they say?
They're saying once a day maybe to sanitize the heavier used areas. Or I suppose if you're get in more, you're gonna do it more often.
What about like activities? That'd be a lot tougher to separate it than, we don't get that many kids on a bus coming to school going home, but activities, you might have 30
Well, the
kids.
Brunswick bus will be the biggest deal because it's pretty well filled up. But yeah, activities, I don't know if they're gonna try to limit on that or what they're gonna do. I guess we've been doing some activities and using vans, and so they're taking a van load of the vans.
So this one policy that we have in here, and you probably haven't seen it, but it talks about bus drivers having to go to the emergency meetings and stuff that you have. Do we do that? Bus drivers?
Them are covered in your level 1 and level 2 courses.
Okay, so is that separate than what the school does then?
Yeah.
So they do that here, or do they have to go somewhere?
I've got one going to Wayne on Wednesday night and one going to Norfolk on Saturday to renew their level 2.
They do that every year then?
They're good for 5 years.
Have you got enough drivers?
They're probably gonna scrape by again, West It's just, there's not really anybody out there that wants to do it too bad, yeah. The ones that do, you don't know if you want them driving or not. Yeah, it gets down to that point too, yeah. I won't be responsible for them behind the wheel of the bus.
I told Julie we're one good windstorm away from both of us going to drive the buses. Forget this part.
Is that tonight?
Yeah, possibly. I might be calling you in the morning.
There is a.
Kay might be calling you.
Might you have to get another bus or do another route if you don't have enough to space them all out? Can you-
Or if a guy can run with a van and pick the family up or something. I guess as we get a little closer and figure out more, and then we can figure out what we need to do for sure.
Is it the same thing in a van then, every other row?
They don't say nothing about vans,
Really?
because that's getting into your different drivers. And so as far as Norfolk's, we should be about the same on that going too. And I don't know what, if they're gonna have us wearing masks or not, or.
So we can put 14 kids on a van and 9 on a bus.
No, you can't have 14 passenger vans. Yeah, it don't make sense.
But buses, those 2 old buses, do we ever do anything to get rid of them or anything?
No,
Still the same?
it's, the iron market kinda went to heck, and that's gonna be basically what your bid's gonna be on. And then, well, last spring was flood, you couldn't do nothing anyway. And then the way this spring went. So at some point, yeah, we need to get them and see if we can get some bids shot on them, and
Junkyards buy buses, like C&H,
you usually get the different salvage yards that'll buy them and then scrap them out.
Doors working good yet?
Yes.
Anybody else have anything? All right, thanks, Bob.
How you doing? We won.
Did you?
So, it's Dave again.
Number 9, welcome back to Dinner for Teachers, August 11th.
Looking at that, August 11th seems kind of to be the best day that would work for us to do it. Plan on doing it at the club and then having Mary's cater it again. We do teacher recognition during that time as well, or staff recognition. And we have, there's 7 that we'd be giving out. We have a 15, 2 20s, 25, and 2 30s. So,
On list 25, it doesn't have that on there.
Jolene should be 25.
Who's available?
to Mary?
Yeah, Derek, our Dr. Al's already talked.
They're all,
Mhm.
Okay, action items. Number 10, discuss and take possible action on approving first reading of policy 205.08, board policy and temporary waivers. Nebraska Department of Ed rules. So basically, all this is saying is that if they come out with something new that's different than what we have policy for, this supersedes our policy.
So anything that ND says waivers or policy-wise that pertains to this year in the epidemic, if it goes against what we have in policy, we have to follow what ND says, basically.
And we have to have a policy that says that we'll follow the policy.
Yes.
Okay, we'll have to have action on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of 205.8, board policy, temporary waiver rules.
Second.
Okay, it's been first and second, what?
Yes.
Tim?
Yep.
Trent?
Yeah.
Jim? Kristen? Self, yes, motion carries. Number 11, discuss and take possible action on approving first reading of policy 607.10, classroom environment.
All there is in this one is basically banning essential oils and saying that kids can use them individually, I guess, but you can't diffuse them as a teacher or make it available to everybody. So what they're saying is if you want to put it up and diffuse it in your classroom so it hits everybody, you can't do that. Basically what that's looking at.
Just have something to do with COVID or anything, or it's just?
A lot of it's just allergies. There's been some kids that have broke out or whatever and had been allergic to some of the different things, so they're just being consistent and get rid of it. They're not allowed.
So why would the kids be able to dispense it and then go into the classroom? Would the other kids still be
Well, it would-
allergic to that?
It would be
Constant?
spraying on to other kids, so if they used it on their wrist or their ear or something like that, that would be okay. But the diffusing actually has the mist.
This is coming out from the state also, correct?
Yeah.
Carries for motion.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve first reading policy 607.10, classroom environment.
Second.
First and second, Trent?
Yeah.
Tim? Yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Philip?
Yep.
Kristen?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Number 12, discuss and take possible action on approving revisions to policy 502.031, early admission to kindergarten.
So this is just the revisions that we talked a little bit about last month. But in addition to those, I put in, an admissions page, or just, so we have a blanket.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, and, a questionnaire like they talked about. We just didn't have these things that it talked about, and so I went in and created those things and put those in your packet so you can see what those will look like.
Very good.
How often does this come into effect?
We had one this year.
Is that typical to have one every year?
Probably not.
I'll make a motion to approve revisions to policy 502.031 in red.
Second.
Seconded. Thor?
Yep.
Kristen?
Yes.
Myself, yes, Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Trent?
Yeah.
Motion carries. 13, discuss and take possible action on approving revisions to policy 504.11, weapons.
This one's just basically adding in dangerous objects, so they're putting in their tasers, mace, pepper spray. Last year, there was 2 or 3 school districts that had kids bring tasers in the schools. So they had to put that in as policy that those are considered dangerous objects. So that's what it
Any
is.
coaches?
Huh?
Watch any coaches bring them.
That's right. Cattle prods are not.
So can they have mace in their purses like girls?
Because that's the one thing that you could see is girls spraying pepper spray in, or if they have it on a keychain, something like that, so we would be able to confiscate that. That goes into the next policy where we also added in that we can confiscate those items if we see them. So no, in school, girls can't have mace or pepper spray.
Even if they just kept them in their purse. So if they want them for protection, what are they supposed to do?
School's supposed to be a safe place for them to come to.
I guess they could be left in their car. No more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve revisions to policy 50411 as written.
Second.
Second myself, yes. Trent?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
14, discuss and take possible action approving revisions to policy 504.16, searches and seizures.
And like I said, this is just adding in that we can confiscate those items, or we can search if we have reason to believe that it is on somebody well in school.
This authority pertain to every instructor, principal, teacher, or just principals, or who's it all pertain to? Like if you want to see something?
So if you want to see something, that if the teacher has reason to suspect, then they would contact the office and get an administrator, and we would go and do the search then.
Okay.
But if they had it on, the teacher could just take it over,
Yeah.
take it out to the class.
I mean, if they have it out in the open, the teacher can take it, but either way, I'm gonna end up getting contacted with them now. And typically, whenever we do a search, because we had to do one last year, I had Mr. Peter come with me, so we always have 2 people involved whenever we're doing
You do it with the student or with them?
with the student, with the student.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve revisions to policy 801.04 as written.
Second.
Oh, you mean
Oh,
five
I
oh
voted
four 16?
over. I'll make a motion to approve revisions to policy 504.16 as written. Krista was the second now.
Yeah.
First and second, Krista?
Yes.
Trent?
Yeah.
Tim? Wyatt?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Number 15, discuss and take possible action on approving revisions to policy 801.04 bus safety program.
So again,
And it's
it's
just-
adding the dangerous objects.
Can't have them on bus either.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to policy 801.04 as read.
Second.
First and second, what?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Trent?
Yeah.
Yes. Krista?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Number 16, discuss and take possible action on approving revisions to policy 508.15 concussion awareness.
So this policy is in place for athletics to come back or any activity. If a kid has a concussion, we have a protocol that they have to go through in order to return to activities. Same thing goes for schools called Return to Learn. So they have that same process, and we have a protocol set up, so if a kid needs to leave the classroom, whatever, come to a dark place, because light bothers them, whatever it is, we have that set up. All we're adding into this is saying that if there is a student that has a concussion, the parent and that student need to contact the district office, so we are aware of it.
Something that happens out of school.
Mhm. So even if something happens at practice, yes, the coach should come and tell us that there's a concussion, but it's also putting it back on the student and the parent that they're contacting us, so the school is aware of it. So that way we make teachers aware as well.
So they need to let you know in addition to the coach.
Yep.
As well.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve revisions to policy 508.15 as read.
Second.
First and second, Krista?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Trent?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. 17, discuss and take possible action on parent-student handbooks for the 2020-2021 school year.
digital copy, I know the high school one, and the table of contents, when you go in there, I put anchors in there and everything, so if you have a policy or something you need to get to, you click on it, and it takes you directly in the documents where you need to go. Trying to speed that up a little bit, but it is a lot shorter. 26 pages is what it ended up being. I tried to be precise in everything that was in there, but also trying not to put a whole bunch of policy in there too. If they want to look at policy, we have that so they can read it. There's not a whole lot different. The schedule's different. Grading system, I think I made a point difference on a few of our grades, just in the fact that they weren't quite weighted correctly. And in weighting grades, we're gonna add, I mean, that's not really different. We're giving kids a little bit more credit for taking college level classes versus a regular classroom. Semester test, we are not going to do this year. I know I brought that up before, so that's not going to be in there. Graduation requirements with the change in schedule, we did change that a little bit, so the credits have gone down. I think we were at 280 and now we're at 240 for graduation wise, and I put all that stuff in there too before you can look at. But I think those were the biggest things, the changes that took place.
So they don't need as many credits, are they allowed to do work really, so if they have their 240, instead of, don't need, they have a 40, you allow them to.
That's something
jobs.
we haven't got into yet. I know that's something that's kind of big going on in the state right now, is getting that hands-on work experience, where seniors get 1 day a week where they go and job shadow, or they go and work in the field that they want to go into to try and get them that experience. We're just not quite there yet. I'm looking at it. And I know when we filled out Perkins stuff, Mrs. Jacobson, Mr. Kent, and Mr. Juden and I sat down and went through that. That's one of the big things that they look for when it comes to career clusters. And that was one thing that we couldn't put down that we were real great at. I think we have a structure in place, but we don't have the hands-on experience getting out there yet. So that's something we're gonna work on.
As far as the elementary handbook, it is pretty close to what you saw last month. The only thing that I have added is, it did not have the grading scale in it last month, and it has the grading scale in it now. And I also added, playground rules, because they weren't in it either. But everything else is pretty much the same.
How is the bus loading working out here? You know, we made a change, what, year and a half ago? Working good?
It's pretty smooth, yep. And I think that we will be able to have teachers going out different doors, and the way we do it now will help us with social distancing as well. So, we're gonna do the same procedures for next year.
What's the open campus policy this year?
Open campus is 10 through 12.
10 through 12, is that the same as last year?
Yep. Can't drive, so they can walk home or they can walk somewhere else, but no driving.
The one thing that was not in, the packet that was emailed to you is the health guidance, the returning to school. So there was something very similar for summer school that followed the guidelines that had been in place at the time that summer school started. And so Kyle and I worked on this today, and will continue to work on it, making sure that we are coming as close as possible to launch Nebraska and CDC, coming as close as we can to their recommendations, for returning to school. some of them are obviously social distancing when we can. So one way that we are going to do that is we've spread out our lunches some, and we're going to have every other seat. We're also doing that with how students will be entering the building each day. So different grade levels will enter through different doors. Students and teachers will get their temperatures checked every day. We've been doing that with summer school, and it's pretty slick. It goes pretty quick. So we're going to continue doing that in both buildings next year. And then if students or teachers are at 100.0, then that's when they go. Continued cleaning and disinfecting, having students wash their hands and sanitize more.
I think in this building, we're gonna wipe down desks every period, so we're gonna have rolls of paper towels in the room with spray bottles, so we can spray the desk, student wipe them, throw it away as they leave, so that way we get that part down. Yeah, we're gonna have 3 doors, so the activities door, the superintendent door, and the locker room doors, so we're gonna have 2 grades come in each day, or each door, each day, so that way we can eliminate large groups coming into a small space. I would like to say our kids will be able to go to their homeroom then at 7:45 instead of just hanging out in the hallway. I think that's a big issue that we have in the mornings. But the other thing that we'll run into, that's something we haven't discussed yet, but we need to. The other thing is when we have activities in the morning, 1X, things like that, those sponsors are gonna be responsible for checking temperatures and stuff like that in the mornings as well. So that way, as soon as every kid comes in, we get it, but yeah, that should all be in there. Athletics and activities, we're gonna follow whatever the NSA puts out. They put out a few things, I have it printed off, it's all color coded, different phases that they go into for each activity and what they're going to be at. So I'll make a copy of this stuff and give it to every coach, so that way they're aware of what the stipulations are and what the expectations are. And basically just so we're all staying on top of what we can and can't do once this gets rolling, because we wanna keep kids in school and we wanna keep them active, and if we don't do our part, that won't happen, so.
So why are you using the north doors instead of the 4 south doors?
We are using, so in the elementary building, we're using all 3 and then the back door as well.
There's not a sidewalk back there, right?
No, but there is, if they're coming from the side of the building, yeah.
So they can walk on sidewalk all the way around to that door?
No.
So if it rains a whole bunch, just track it all in?
Well, no, we have, because that's the door they come in and out of for recess anyway, and so we purchased those large, thick carpets that go down the hallway, and they're supposed to collect 85 to 90% of any moisture, snow, all of that good stuff. I mean, if there's a day that the weather is really bad, then we'll probably have a teacher out there directing them to come.
I just didn't know if you could just split the, there's 4 inches on the south side, if you just split those and then just have them all come in from the south side.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about it, it's just with the class sizes, we would really like to be able to spread them out as much as possible. So, I mean, I think it's easy to put something in there that says, in cases of inclement weather, then we would take 3rd and 4th at this door or this door. And I can absolutely add that to
Is there
it.
good gravel or something back there? Could we get a load of gravel so it wasn't mud?
If they're coming, no, either way, they're gonna have to cross a little bit of the playground.
But it's grass.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the thermometers are bought. And I'm assuming you're gonna have several for each building.
Yep, they, ESU gave us several, and then Dr. Arl purchased several. And I think he is contemplating purchasing additional. Is that what we talked about?
I think
Needing to
when we
purchase
talked
2 or
today,
3.
we would have to have 7. Seven.
I got 6 from ESU.
So.
And then he purchased several.
So we talked a little bit on graduation day about if a kid comes in, he's 123 or whatever, he's gotta go home. You can't just say, okay, you can't get in the building, you got a snowstorm or rain or whatever, you gotta plan where that kid's gonna go until somebody can come.
No, that student won't be able to go to classes or anything
Right.
until the
Well, you can't
the
just lock
nurse's
them
office
outside.
or, right, so they go to the nurse's office or to a chair in the front doorway or something out of the way.
You know, if you had a small room somewhere that you just designate for that, you know.
In the elementary, we have, the nurse's office is pretty close to the front door, and
You hate
yours
to
is
bring
as
them any
well.
further than you have to. I mean,
Right,
first room available would be the best.
right.
And then in our building, it's not as big a deal because most kids either drive or they walk to school. So I mean, they're either gonna walk back home or drive home. It's the ones that ride the bus where you're gonna have that. So, we'll use that extra room in the office that's next to mine. We'll be able to keep them in there until they're able to get a ride back, because that's where the phone is too, because I'll have them in phone line. But that's something we have to get into yet, because we've just started talking about people being infected and things like that, and what our protocol's gonna be and what that's gonna look like. We've kind of been waiting for the NDE to come out with something, but we're gonna start putting some stuff together this week, and I know, I think we're all gonna be, as a group next week, and start really getting some of that stuff nailed down and what it's gonna look like. And we've sent out a survey to teachers, and they've asked some questions, so we've started compiling that stuff, so we can answer their questions too.
So we're gonna need to have any extra meetings. I talked to Garrett about this, he didn't think so.
I think
Our
we
next
should-
meeting, school's gonna start pretty soon.
I think we should have it all done, I mean, by the 1st of August, we would be done with it. So, I mean, we can send it out ahead of time, so if there were by chance you had questions or wanted to meet, you could. But I think that we'll have a good plan in place once beginning of the month comes around.
All right, we're gonna add this athletic handbook with this.
Yeah, I mean, you can add that into, everything that I put in there, I think I've added it or showed you before. Basically, it just has some expectations, what we think about, what we wanna accomplish through athletics and activities. So there's a mission statement, what we wanna accomplish with junior high and getting kids to participate and be involved. High school philosophy, and then there's kind of some expectations that we have both of our coaches and of our players and athletes. And then we also put some parent expectations in there too. And then, like you said, with the bus riding, I added that somewhere. I don't remember where.
Under athlete expectations.
Under athlete, yep.
Yeah.
Students are expected to travel from out of town events, and then, but if there's an extending circumstance, whatever that might be, it has to be, taken care of ahead of time, it can't be day of. So, just something to try and give a little bit of consistency through all of our programs, so it's not so this program, that program, we have consistency as a group and what we expect from kids, and so kids aren't trying to figure out they can do something with this group and not with that, it's just consistent all the way through.
Is this good for speech and what else and that stuff too?
Yeah, I mean, it can pertain to them, but, I know they would kind of fall under that run too.
Make a motion to approve the 2021 student parent handbook.
A second. First, Krista?
Yes.
Jim? Trent?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Okay, number 18, discuss and take possible action on appointing Dr. Darren Arnold as state and federal programs director for the district. This is basically just a formality that we do every year.
I'll make a motion to designate Dr. Darren Arnold as the state federal program director for the 2021 school year.
Second?
Second, Glenn?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Trent?
Yep.
Jim?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. 19, discuss and take possible action on approving IXL contract for 1 or 3 years.
Okay, so last year you approved IXL, and unfortunately, we did not get to take our state testing at the end of the year to show the fruits of the labor that the students had been working on. But I did put several different forms in your packet that just show how we break down the data that we have from IXL. you know, if you're looking at the elementary school, on average, students are answering 63 questions a week, and students in the high school on average are answering 45 questions a week. The recommendation from IXL is 30. So in both buildings, on average, we're exceeding that. It's pretty cool to see that we have mastered 9,160 skills, and we're proficient in 18,000. So you can just, this is one way that we broke down the district data. On the next page, it continues that. It breaks it down and shows weekdays versus weekends. It shows how many teachers are engaged in it. And so in the elementary school, for example, there's 92% of teachers were active, when in reality, the 3 that were not active don't have regular classrooms. So 100% of the teachers were active in using IXL. And then in high school, 75% was active, but in reality, that other 25% of teachers didn't have classes that could use IXL. So there's no IXL Spanish, or there's no IXL shop. Yeah, so really we still had 100% participation there as well. On the next one, I showed you just an elementary breakdown, and so it just gives you the effects. And then the next one is showing how teachers can look at it, what skills their students have been working on, what recommendations they have for review. So as a math teacher, I can go in there and have my students working on this, and it's gonna tell me, okay, your students are doing great here, but you might wanna review this a little bit more. So, and then it also tells you your top students. So like in the past 30 days from the time I printed this, Owen Moret had answered 2,040 questions. So I called him and I was like, Owen, you're on fire, you're still doing IXL. So, I mean, that was pretty exciting to see. I mean, we have quite a few students still working on it. There's over 1,000 questions answered by Ella. So that shows that even in the summer, our kids are getting on this and they still have access to it. So when I contacted IXL for the same services that we had last year, they could either do, or we could either do a 1-year contract or we could do a 3-year contract. If we chose to do a 3-year contract, we would pay, let me see. If we chose to do a 3-year contract, we would pay 50% this year and then 25%, 25%. So over the next 2 years, it would be significantly less per year. And there's a total savings of over $2,000 by doing a 3-year contract.
What if we're not using it in 3 years?
I can't see us not using it. So when Kyle redid, for example, when he redid the high school schedule, there's intervention time now built into the schedule, and I've done the same thing in the elementary building. And IXL is a perfect intervention and extension tool. It's something that's very easy. When you go onto IXL, it has textbook alignments already on there. And so teachers can go in and say, okay, so in Wonders, we're teaching Unit 3, Week 2. Here are the skills that my students need to work on. So I can't see us not using it in 3 years, to be completely honest. And I wish we had data to show how much it helped this year.
Because the plan in this building anyways is when we get back to school, we'll math test everybody, so we can see kind of where we're at skill-wise and where we're at grade level-wise. And what I'm going to do with the schedule is when we have those study halls built in, we're gonna look at RIT scores of each kid. So if they didn't meet the RIT score that the state says, then those kids will have an intervention time. And I think I have it broken down into 6-week increments. So for 6 weeks, those kids are gonna go to a science teacher and work on the skills that they're missing out on. And with IXL, you can individualize it, so they're getting the specific skills that they don't have mastered. And then the next 6 weeks, we'll have separate kids, and it goes to math. You're getting excited.
I am, because I just remembered that IXL has
And
Great
then-
alignments too.
And then, so we'll do math, and then the next 6 weeks we'll do English, and that should lead us right up then to the state testing. So what we're trying to do is take kids that aren't performing at the levels that we think they should be, and trying to increase that and get them caught back up to grade level or exceed it. And with math test, we can pair everything together, and you can see what standards they're low in, and then you go straight into IXL and just give them those standards to work on. So they're not getting extra work on things that they're good at, they're getting work on the things that they struggle with during that time.
But at the same time that you're working with those students that are struggling, you can push those students that are excelling. Because they're not tied into, I'm a 5th grade student, I can only work on 5th grade skills. So if they're a 5th grade student and they've mastered the skill they're working on at 5th grade, they can go into that same skill in 6th grade and master it. They can go into that same skill at 7th grade and master it. So they can continue mastering it at more complex levels. So, pretty cool.
I just have a question. I know that it was the first year this year with
Yeah.
the whole thing. I just have some feedback from my kids. The majority of you have kids that probably participated in this. What does teacher engagement mean? How is that ranked in the program?
Okay, so for the teacher engagement, when I talked about 92% of elementary,
What does that
yeah,
mean?
so that means teachers are going in and looking at the analytics of their students. So if I assigned whatever skills, then I've gone in and I've looked and I've seen, okay, how is Bastian doing in that skill that I assigned? And what can I do to help him? If he's not grasping it, what can I do to push him if he's got it?
So,
So if they're
that's fair, I understand. So for Bastian specifically, I guess, just because he's my son, he had a really difficult time figuring out what to do in the program.
Yes.
So I don't know if there's a way that we can I think it's great. I mean, if I wouldn't have to fill out paper worksheets my whole time in Ray Doris class, I wouldn't have to spend. I really like it. I actually sat there and helped him work with them. I thought it was fun. But he really struggled with what am I supposed to do and what am I supposed to answer? And all of a sudden he's been out there for an hour and a half and he's got 84 questions answered, but 20 of them correct. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yes.
You know,
And we had
so
a-
he really struggled with that, connecting what was happening in the class lesson with what he was supposed to do on IXL.
We had a lot of conversations with students, especially 4th quarter, when they're doing an hour's worth of work and not able to master that skill. That's when you have to step away and we need to have teacher intervention. Unfortunately, 4th quarter didn't really allow for a lot of one-on-one teacher interventions. But it's an easy way to see which kids do just have it and which kids do I need to work with more because he's answered 84 questions and only got 20 correct.
A lot of the times it boiled down to he didn't read the entire
Yes.
question.
Or read,
So,
because once you get one wrong, it gives you an explanation as to why it's wrong. And sometimes that explanation can be a little bit confusing, but sometimes the kids don't even read it and they're
that's
just
the
like,
thing.
yep, okay.
I guess I'm just assuming that Bastian is the average kid.
Yes.
And he just kind of well, didn't do that one right, what's the next one? Okay,
Right.
Didn't do that one right, and they kind of feel like it's free, but all of a sudden they've been doing it for an hour and it should have taken 5 minutes.
Right.
And then on this other one is kind of aggressive too, and I don't necessarily mean it that way. On the high school level, don't want to pinpoint my daughter, I guess, and make her feel bad, but we had a number of conversations about, and some of these staff members aren't hearing more, it doesn't matter necessarily, but we had a lot of questions about, there was no lesson presented, but the IXL homework was given. So no actual instruction that day, just focus on the IXL thing. I'm taking that for what it was worth from my daughter's explanation. Could be accurate, could be not. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt because she's my daughter. But is there a way, so that's again that teacher interaction thing. Are we working at putting our lesson plans in association with that, or is it meant to be separate and extra?
There may
I
be,
would hope that this school year is gonna look different than
Yes.
this spring.
I hope so.
Because
I'm
the
not
whole
trying to be
thing was our
overly
kids
critical,
weren't
I
in
just-
here, so we don't get the chance to directly instruct them.
Right.
So then, when you use this in the classroom setting, when I break it up into those different groups, they're going to go to that core teacher. So when they're working on those things, kids are able to ask questions, hey, I don't understand this, that core teacher understands it, they get to go around to each kid and help them answer those questions. And then when they're using it in the general classroom, because I know you can use it to check for mastery and things like that, that's where they're getting that lesson in class, and so teachers are just giving them what they're working on. And then they should be able to see, yes, this kid's mastered, no, they're not, and then that's where the teacher goes back, we're gonna reteach this because they don't get it.
But there
So we
may.
didn't get to see the full use of it last year.
There may also be, you know, Wonders is broken down into 6-week units. I might give my students all of the skills that we're going to be working on for this 6 weeks on a checklist at the beginning of the 6 weeks. So they may have one on that list that we haven't taught yet. But they're gonna use that same checklist for the entire 6 weeks. So if that was.
That's kind of what I thought, it was perhaps my misunderstanding what the thing was.
Right.
And how it's supposed to be used, matched up with the descriptions from my kids coming home and telling me what they're frustrated with.
Yes,
So-
yes. And in any first year implementing things,
Absolutely, absolutely.
frustration on
I
the
just wanted to
student
let
side
you know that
and.
there was some, I don't know, did any of your kids have any issues with the thing? Not big deal, they don't care? Did you buy them all laptops or something, they can sit in their room and do it, or what?
I did.
Like I said, I think it was great. I sat down and I loved it. I mean, it was like a lot of the stuff Ashley was doing was things that I enjoyed. I enjoy reading comprehension, read a paragraph, answer the question. You know, it was pretty great for me, but.
So I was thinking this was maybe something that would fit really good with them being at home, but not necessarily, that they could do this stuff from home.
Depending on if they had grasped the
If they get
skills
it
or
yeah.
if
they
they
need
were
help,
struggling
it's not
with
so
it.
good if they don't
Right.
need help. or something.
Right.
So it's,
It's kind of this, you know.
But at the same point, you know, I might have given the advice, okay, so you're having a hard time with it at 5th grade level, why don't you try it at 4th grade level, master it there, and then come up to 5th grade? Because just as we can challenge students in going up a grade level, they're more than welcome to go down a grade, as long as they're not going down from 6th to preschool, to, you know, they can go down to grasp it that way as
so
well.
the basis of the program is, from my own understanding, is it's meant to immediately test the mastery of the subject that you've already taught them, or that they can push you to go farther for
Yes.
their own benefit.
Yes, both,
Both, yeah, that's what I meant.
yes, yes.
And does it work into their grade somehow?
It should not, no.
Because I also had a couple conversations with, you need to value this because the school board paid for it.
Right.
And you need to make sure that you understand you have to do it.
Right,
So
but
it was. one
at
of
the
those
same
things like,
time,
it's not part of my grade, I don't really care, you know, so.
Right.
There's a way to motivate them to do that as
Well,
well.
the testing will hopefully prove that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is feedback on you.
All right, so you said there's over a $2,000 savings, but it says on here, multi-year discount is $1,643, is that the savings?
oh, yeah. Sorry, almost 2,000.
So our first year
So
payment, you said would be
5,700.
50%, so it'd be about $7,400 versus the.
7,391.
Versus the.
So under the comments, it has it broken down.
So we really haven't thrown that much more money out there for the first year. If we did a 3-year deal, just how we don't like it, it's only, you know, a couple $1,000.
Right. But it
You
saves us
still gotta
that
make the
much.
next year payment, I'm sure. Contract, right?
You can't, it's guaranteed for 3 years, you can't.
You still gotta pay that $14,000 whether you like it or not.
Oh, yes, you'll still have to pay for year 2 and year 3.
They would, they just make you pay more upfront.
Yeah.
Any comments on it?
All your teachers seem to see some value in it.
They did. We had some that were a little bit more hesitant, I think, over here using it in the high school building. But I think they started seeing the value in it quite a bit more during 4th quarter. Am I speaking correct?
So when do they have time to sit down at their computer and really look at it? Do they feel like this is something that gets pushed over to do at home?
Students or
The
teachers?
teachers.
No,
Because while
I
they're in
mean,
classroom, they're basically, they should be teaching, not sitting on.
Right, but they have a plan period every day. So there's that plan period that they could look at their data. Or like I said, there are the textbook alignments, and so they're not having to go through and say, this is the skill I'm working on, I need to search for it in IXL. It's right there for them.
So it
This
makes
is
their planning easier.
Right.
I think when they're sitting down to do lesson plans is when it's useful. I mean, because they're able to see where their kids' strengths are, where they're weak at, helps them create that, I need to hit this, I can go a little faster through this part.
A lot of the elementary teachers did bingos or different kinds of incentives. So, we had junior high and high school doing bingos as well. So they would have all the IXL skills and they just had to work on them until they got a bingo. And so they incentivize in other ways rather than in the grade book.
So we really don't know if this is gonna pay off or if it's just fun for the kids right now, right?
Right now, since we did not do any testing at the end of the year, we don't.
Yeah, but Trent, it's fun.
Yeah, I know, but
I sat down, I
it's fun.
spent a couple hours on it, I think it was a blast, I wish I had it when I was
Maybe
there.
you
Like, now I
kids-
gotta go change
kids
their
think it's fun.
You never used it.
Well,
I gotta quit grading my stuff.
I'm gonna go in and find you.
Does your kid like it?
Oh, yeah.
You never get to use it.
I mean, that's what's important, when the kids like it. If the kids don't like it, they're gonna do it.
The thing I really enjoy about it is they can go as fast as they can do it, or as slow as they need to. I mean, it gives them that, you know, they like, you got 20 minutes to do this and you're done.
Yeah.
But it's not really homework, it's just basically extra credits.
Well, my kids were assigned
Yeah.
anyway.
Oh, they
They had
were.
to get so
It's
many,
everything.
progressed so far anyway in IXL, and in all three of them, they had that anyway, you know,
Yeah.
especially from March on, they had to. So it was assigned to them. And I guess I thought it plugged right in anyway to that virtual learning that we were doing in the spring. We had
Yeah, I
to.
think we were lucky we had it.
So, yeah,
I agree.
And I guess this is the tool, anyway, you're saying that we want to use anyway for the next 3 years. I don't see any maybe. That's 15.
You better use it for 3 years if you're going to pass it for 3 years.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
It's $15 a student. $15 a student. Is that what it is?
On 325 students.
That's per year.
That's like, if you pay $4,900 a year.
Yeah.
And I just, 2019 motion.
We need to combine it. Either do the top one or the bottom one.
Yeah, top, or the 3 year, I mean.
Yes, that's what
I'll make a motion to approve the 3 year license for IXL not to exceed $14,782 for the 2021 school year.
Second.
First and second, what?
Yes.
Yes.
Trent?
Yeah.
George?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
I'll go on to this, because I have no experience with this. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'm sure that
Christie, you need to spend some time on
on 3 years, because otherwise, you can't let them not use
We're
it.
not gonna spend money on something
No,
else.
something not using, use them not enough.
Okay, reports, activity directors report.
Weight room's running, we got about 3 weeks left in that. Had great attendance from students and coaches this year, so that's been good to see. All sports are now free from restrictions, volleyball, basketball, football, all that stuff can start camps and leagues, so they've taken all that out. Should be in your handout, I believe, Kelly, isn't it, the uniform rotation? There's an Excel sheet, so I put on there kind of a rotation of what I'm looking at for when I want to buy uniforms for different sports teams. So that way each year we kind of plan and have a designated time. I like to do all of them at once. I don't really want to buy a home uniform one year and then away the next year, because if styles change or anything, I just want to get a home and away, and they're good for 6 years, and is what I plan on using them for. So I think next year basketball is the one that I have up, so I would do junior high, high school, girls and boys home and aways, and that would all get taken care of. So you can look through that, and if something, I mean, I'm open for suggestions too, if you wanna see changes or whatever, you can contact me with it. The track, did the track pictures get added in there too, Kelly?
No, that Carl said you guys are gonna bring the pictures, you did not want them added in the package.
Fair enough, I did not, I have a copy of them on my computer.
Sorry. I
can
asked, 'cause
send
I
it.
asked him that question, he said not to make copies.
I can send out pictures to you guys. I went down and took pictures at the track. it needs some serious updates. There's cracks where the asphalt's showing through. The entire top layers come up in a few places where you can literally pick it up almost to my waist and crawl under it. So
I didn't
there's,
see a picture of you crawling under it.
well, I didn't crawl under it, but I could have. That's how large it is. But there's some serious updates. So I have started talking to some people and seeing what kind of quotes I can get for future reference if when we want to redo this and get it done. From the sounds of it, the first guy that came out said that the base is still good, and that would be like one of the most expensive parts to have to rip it all out and completely redo the asphalt. So that part's good. I don't have any quotes yet, but as I get them, I'll share them with you guys so that way we can start kind of getting a plan of what we want everything to look like, what the cost would be, so we can get a plan in place for that.
Do they recycle or repurpose this top layer? I mean, is it reused? Do they, like they do asphalt, or how's that work?
Stanton redid theirs, and they went through a company that did a grant where they used recycle on top, so that paid for part of it. I'm not real sure how that worked. I mean, I can talk to them. The asphalt part underneath, is supposed to last about 40 years, and I think we redid the track 20 to 25 ago, somewhere in there.
Will having the separations cause more damage to the bottom if it's not repaired sooner rather than later? Or no?
I don't know, it's just the cracks on top that I worry about, because there's pretty good gaps where you can see the asphalt underneath. And if kids start, I mean, you had a kid sprinting on it, and you step on it wrong or whatever, if it gives a little bit, you can cause some issues, so.
Are those cracks fillable or?
Patch or define. Some you can fill, there's one on the back stretch that runs pretty much the whole length, and you can pull it up, it's getting loose on both sides. So they would have to actually cut that out and then come in and lay a new piece in there, is what that would do. So I had him, he's gonna come up with a quote for what it would be to patch all those and what it would really look like there. So we can kind of see what that would cost. But then they said with the base, there is one spot on the home stretch or on the front side where it's got a little dip in it. And the machine they have has it set so it makes it all level. So if it's a little dip, it'll actually put more in there, so that way it fills it in. And he said as long as you put the top coat on it, which is about every 7 to 8 years they suggest doing that, it'll keep it like new, the way it's supposed to be.
Cool.
So.
So it's just regular road asphalt underneath there.
Yeah. And our runways are road asphalt, the same too. I would lean towards doing concrete with that, because with the asphalt, it starts breaking up on the edges. And so when you look at our runways right now, they kind of have a dip and a U in the middle. And so then water sits in there, where if you get concrete, you get consistent and it doesn't ever really do that. And then I also talked to him about having a high jump pit in the end zone where we can actually do high jump down with the track instead of doing it up behind the elementary school where we run downhill. So, but that's all stuff. I'll get figures, get numbers and everything, share it with you guys, and we can kind of come up with what we're gonna do. Bowling did get added by the NSAA. So I did put that in there, and I think on the salary schedule, that was added in there as well. I put it under, I think, column B for pay, which was, I don't remember what one that was under. What all sports are under that one, but that's where I put it.
At varsity track, varsity custom.
There you go. Put it with that one. In the process of looking for a coach, I've contacted all the staff. I have not heard back from anybody. I know Leonard Risinger has been doing it. So I was gonna contact him. Anytime you have somebody coming in from the community, they have to take classes and get certified in order to coach and to be around the high school kids. So that's something, if he's interested in doing, I'll have to talk to him and get him started on those courses and stuff as well. But we have it added, just sent that to the NSAA today, and then added that to the salary schedule.
When will that be?
It'll be a winter season. Right now, the NSAA's got the committee going together to figure out what that's gonna look like. I would think it would kind of look like a wrestling schedule, where you dual or do triangulars during the week, and then do big tournaments on the weekend. But, like I said, I don't really know how many competitions or anything like that it would go with, so still waiting to hear back from that part to get scheduling started.
We need to have a conversation with bowling alley too, maybe have a
Yeah.
contract so that switches hands, they decide when to close doors, whatever, so we're not left out.
Right next to the swimming pool.
Yeah, oh, there you go.
Added it on the quote.
It can be in the
track.
new.
Alley there, right there.
And the other end zone.
Grandstand.
You already got that.
That's right, it's like 3 main bumpers, get us straight every time. August, looking at doing an athletic kickoff, so that's where I wanted to hand out a athletic handbook to all the parents and all the students, so we're doing kind of a kickoff there. Looking at doing August 21st, that's typically the scrimmage night, and maybe getting the booster club involved in doing like a little potluck or something, and just kind of something to kick the year off, but haven't got anything set in stone with that yet. And then a couple of changes I was looking at, junior high events, we have a lot of them. If we would charge $2 for a junior high event for adults to come and watch it, that would be an issue. I mean, we're paying out $100 a night for officials and stuff like that, and we're really not getting anything back. So I was just trying to find a way to close some of that gap. So hopefully that, I mean, if there's concerns or questions with that, by all means, you can get a hold of me too. And then high school kids that work events, I mean, they're as surprised as I was when they got a paycheck, so I was thinking that if we provide them with a free education, they can give back a little bit and, you know, help run events too, was my thought process with that. So those were 2 changes I was looking at making.
Does that count towards their?
Community service time, you know, I say,
See, that's-
it's gonna
that's the way
volunteer
to
their
do that.
time.
That's enough incentive then, right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right there.
So,
That's fine.
my goal is to just get some more kids involved in doing stuff and.
So now junior high charging is usually the people there, the parents and the kids, and, you know, parents are the ones supporting the kids for the event, and then they gotta pay to get in and watch.
But other schools do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's kind of.
The other thing that I was gonna throw in there that Dr. Arles shared with you was the extra duty pay schedule. He was gonna break it down, so we pay sports during the seasons that they're going on with everything that happened this year. You know, we were paying out for sports that didn't actually take place, so looking at, he has it broke down where we would pay for the fall sports, let's say, September, October, November. Winter sports would then be December, January, February. So they'll get paid during that season, so if sports get thrown out the window and we don't actually have them, then we wouldn't be tied to paying those activities.
Read the feedback from coaches on that.
Have not. So.
I mean, they have no, it's not like a PPA that they put it in there, you know.
No.
It's up to us to make that decision.
And the thing is, he did say we have to give them a 30-day notice, so if that was something that needed to be moved or voted on or whatever, that if we did it at the next board meeting, it would be in time, so they would have 30-day notice before their contract starts in September. When that takes place.
Should be the change in contract.
Because instead of being broken down over a 1-month period, they're gonna be getting paid in 3 months instead. Junior high would get paid in 2 months, and there are a few activities, student council, National Honor Society, music, guidance, yearbook, FFA, FCCLA, those things that get paid over a year, because I mean, that's how long that they're going to be. So you guys can look through that.
So with us, like this bowling coach, we're still okay sending one coach with a bunch of kids, not have to have a backup, just so there's two coaches there in case something happens, so there's, witness type thing.
Right now, I think, what we have out in bowling last year, was there 10 kids that were out?
You're still doing a cross-country, probably, there's only one coach that goes with them.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of sports that you don't send them.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's something where it grows and we have 15 to 20 kids, then yeah, we're probably gonna have to get another coach. But as of right now, and looking at it, we'll go with one coach for this year.
I wasn't looking at it so much for practices as much as liability reasons on the bus or, when they go somewhere, watching them when you get there.
Yeah, but there are quite a few sports that we do send just one. And then the extra duty assignment sheet is in there, everything's updated. Jen Hodson did take over cross country for us, so she stepped up to the plate and helped us out there. So other than that, I just have to find a bowling coach and everything is filled, so all that's in there for you.
So you do.
You want to coach bowling?
Coach bowling, yeah. Right activities.
I actually took bowling at the University of Nebraska, and I sucked. PE credits.
Don't be so
No risk there, is there?
It's like my golf game. No matter how hard I try, it doesn't make any difference.
Principal wise, summer school started last Monday. High school, we had all 100% of our students show up, so we had 20 of them. They've been very consistent getting work done. I know we had a few kids that just had one thing to do or whatever, and they're done already, so they buckled down and got to work. I think we have still about 14 or 15 going over there, so.
Elementary, we had 60 that were invited, and from that 60, we have 46 that are coming. So we're down a little bit.
So does that mean those other kids will be held back then?
No. So there were some students that were required to come, and then there were some that were simply invited. And so all of the required ones are coming. The ones that chose not to come are ones that were invited, but not required. So I hired Danny Yonke as the media para. She just moved here from South Dakota, and she has got a lower elementary degree, and she's got 5 years of library experience. So we lucked out with that. All of our Wonders material were delivered within a week of ordering them, and so they are in classrooms and have been inventoried. We did have one of the pallets fell over on the truck, and so quite a few boxes looked like they had been ran over. From that, I've taken pictures of materials that were damaged and have already talked to them, and they are going to send replacement materials for any damaged materials. Let's see, orientations were beginning of the year. Kyle talked a little bit about what he was doing in the high school, having a junior high day.
Yeah, my plan is August 3rd and 4th, I'm gonna bring in the 9th and 10th grade on one day, 11th and 12th grade on the other day, just to go over what we're going to do when school starts, and also give them their schedules so they can ask any questions and then make any schedule changes that they might wanna have. And while we have kids and parents here, we're also gonna sign handbook forms, NSA participation forms, Chromebook agreement forms, pretty much anything that we require them to sign and bring back, we're just gonna do while they're here, so that way we're not chasing kids down to get paperwork when school starts. And then on the 5th is when I was gonna do 7th and 8th grade orientation, and really just gonna do the same thing with them, and take them around so they know where their classes are gonna be and stuff like that.
Then on August 12th, I'm gonna have an open house in elementary, and so during that time, there will be 2 different blocks that I will have parents can come into the multi-purpose room and hear about bucket fillers and different things that we'll be doing throughout the school. And then students will be able to visit their classroom, drop off all of their supplies, meet the teacher, all that good stuff.
That's
That's
it.
it.
All right, next one is presence report. I'm just gonna bring this up, I know Darren didn't have it on, him and I have talked, was it out this floor where they did the concrete damage, when they put the air conditioner unit on the roof? They brought the telehandler up here and busted with the concrete. And the company decided, Rasmussen, that they would pay to have all that concrete replaced. At first, they didn't know if they would, they said, it's gonna eat up all our profit, but we will do it. And Darren and I were kind of talking, we're talking about redoing the wall, we don't know where we're gonna have handicap accessibility or whether that would work there. And I said, well, maybe we don't wanna fix it now, maybe we could just take the money, get it estimated, take the money, and then decide what we wanna do with it later, Because we don't wanna redo it like it is now, and then a year from now decide we're gonna redo the wall, make that our handicap entry, and have to change the slope and tear it all back out again. So I don't know whether they would be willing to just write us a check and spend it or not.
Would that be an insurance claim for them?
For them. I think it'd be a liability issue.
I can't believe they're even turn that into insurance and cover for that.
terrible now, we don't use that entryway from the car to get in.
Have they been made yet? Have they been paid yet?
We'll have to get estimates. to where it's gonna
No, I
go.
mean,
Oh,
the
have they been paid for,
We paid a pretty big chunk last year.
I'm sure the unit's been paid for.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, because they bill pretty quickly. When they do something for us, it's generally in the mail the day they're doing it, so I would say yes.
Maybe you need to be a little slower.
But if you wanna take a look at it, just walk out there, you can see where it's cracked up, but it's not like it's, you know,
It didn't cube up any chunks or anything like that, it just broke it.
broke it, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, you don't wanna leave it that way, but you can
No.
leave it that way a year.
But it's not an issue right now, somebody's gonna trip
Right.
over a crack or
Right.
anything like that.
And I don't know, does anybody use this door? Maybe going out.
Mrs. Wacker did.
Not too much, yeah. Mrs. Wacker's about the only one, I think. Miss King will use it a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Mrs. Tidd's mine too.
But I would just soon get the money right away and be done with
Yeah,
it.
I'm with you.
I hate to stick it into something that ain't gonna want to
Yep.
be. All right, that's all I got. Superintendent's report, I guess you probably already read that. Anybody want to text in a question?
How is the, I know some of our teachers, or I shouldn't say teachers, staff members are not certified in their area, and they're supposed to be getting certified. Is that working out? Counselor?
Counselor, yes, he's
working on getting some.
he's supposed to do, internship this fall, so he was supposed to go 1 day a week and finish that. But with everything that's going on, that's kind of up in the air right now, he's working with directors.
Balance your time.
One of this last page, if you look at that, they want you to go to take classes before you actually become a board member.
Yep.
I don't know how you guys would have felt about doing that before you were actually elected, but to me, it's hard enough to get people to run for the board if you're gonna tell them, okay, you gotta attend a class before we're gonna get even less people to run for the board, so personally, I'm not.
You're gonna say how much does it pay?
Well, I mean, I know you can set it home and do it on a computer, but I just don't think we need any more reasons for people to not run for school board. And we have meetings after you're elected, and we all go to those meetings, so. I know Darren is all for it, but that's my view on it.
So we need to vote on that, or?
It's not an action item, so.
Yeah, I'm with you,
We've got until election, well, until these dates, July 27th, so that will be over with by our next meeting. There's still 2 more after that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, if he talks about it, I'll just say we kind of, as a board, if it was necessary.
Kelly, can I change that number for me,
Sure.
so it's not my work number?
Yes.
I appreciate
I
that.
think Mr. Schmidt's got the, but I will take, give me the number you went from that.
841-6468.
6468?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will take care of that.
Do we have anything else? The record time, buy an ice cream tonight?
All right,
The ball game, I will.
Okay, we're adjourned.
7 minutes.
I'll even buy your.
Wait, I'll talk to your plan.
I know why you